Hi, I'm Mark Durham Cruz. I love tech. I love integrations, putting things together. I got invited to the first ever LlamaCon by Meta. I know I'm a few weeks behind covering this because it happened by the end of April. And you probably know at this point there's a Meta AI app that got released at that time. There's multiple things that got released along with LlamaCon, with multiple models that are out there now. But I think the biggest takeaway here is like Meta is serious about challenging ChatGPT, Claude, those other AI tools that are out there. The fact that they're still open source and they are able to produce a very competitive product that can challenge ChatGPT and Claude and those other tools out there, it's pretty impressive. This is like Linux for the large language models. This new standalone Meta AI app is pretty impressive. I use the Meta Ray Bans on a daily basis. Let's break down a little bit of why this matters, right? And why this matters and my whole experience of like the conference, because man, it was fun. I mean, of course, the experience itself, it's your typical tech company conference where there's a bunch of food, there's swags, there's an actual llama. That is nuts. A Meta Llama plushies that I gave to my baby, of course. I got this nice hoodie. Met a lot of people there. A lot of them are not actual engineers. A lot of them are product managers and Vive engineers or Vive coders. Very interesting crowd. Oh yeah, so you can see the videos, you hear like you try on the Meta Ray Bans, a lot of people trying it. There's a bunch of fireside chats that got covered. You can find them online. The only thing that's not published are the developer sessions, which I'll cover towards the end of this video. Let's go back to the Meta AI standalone app. Apart from your typical ChatGPT type application where you can just prompt it and just ask it questions or whatever, I think the game changer, what Meta is doing is they have a social feed with it. So you can see what other people are doing with it. I think the cross-pollination of this is, it really resonates to what I'm doing with this channel, is making sure that, people who are not really in tech trying to build a full stack of AI infrastructure, they can see like the magic of AI on how they can build certain things with just prompting and making sure that they're leveraging what are the free tools that are out there. In this case, Meta AI. All you just have to do is sign up and you get free access to one of the most powerful large language models, AI, out there right now. The next part of this is talking about like the models, right? You can download them through Hugging Face or through directly from Meta. The most beautiful thing about open source is all the documentation is out there. Anything that you need to know, especially now with the magic of AI large language models out there that can help you build with these open source. Now with this LlamaCon, they released 3 models. They released the Scout. It's compact models, can probably run in your any computer that you have. There's also the Maverick, probably a bit higher and on resource need for a regular computer, but this is what runs behind the Meta AI app right now. And of course the Behemoth, I mean, from the name itself, it's probably a biggest model that they've open source so far. There's a lot of talk about distillation on how the bigger models kind of help train the smaller models, those kind of things. There's a lot of talks on how they've applied, for example, like real world applications, right? For example, the NASA ISS, they've deployed a fine-tuned model of Llama just so they can reduce the communication between ISS and Earth. Mayo Clinic using it for their documentations. The engineer from Spotify explained how they're using Llama a fine-tuned Llama to be able to recommend music to us through the DJ app. Of course, there's a lot of real-world applications there. And then, I'll put some links below in the description. Going back to the fireside chat, the most interesting one, of course, is between Mark Zuckerberg and Satya. They were talking about how, I believe Mark asked Satya, like how much of your code is AI LLM generated. Satya answered about 20-30% of their code. And there's headlines of this right now, like out there. You can probably search for it. But the conversation kind of evolved into like how Satya discussed what the role of Microsoft is within this whole movement of AI, where Azure is the compute space for like most AI developments is happening right now, where they even have the Llama models up there that most enterprise companies will probably take advantage of, like fine-tuning and working through Azure. Azure's definitely the highest revenue product of Microsoft right now. So there was a developer session. I'll put the links below on what was covered, but I have some footages here that cover that. It's shot with my Meta Ray-Bans. It's not the best, but few things is like synthetic data kit and then the Llama cookbook. I'll link this all together down in the description. The synthetic data kit is basically a full end-to-end workflow where you can generate training data. Let's say if you have a PDF, you can ingest it, we'll create Q&A pairings, and then you can curate it, and then kind of it scores it, and then you can publish it to train it with whatever model that you're working with. In this case, you know, what they're showing off is training with open source Llama models, right? They also talked about the cookbooks, so I'll link it below, but there's a bunch of things that you can pick up from the cookbooks. Again, like what I said, different use cases, end-to-end use case. But part of what they presented, which you can find online, is the Llama API. You can see here, like, did some quick tests. Right now, there's still a waitlist. I'll put the waitlist link where you can sign up and hopefully you can get access to it. But even the access that I got is very limited. It's basically like an Anthropic console or OpenAI console. I'm mostly on Anthropic console, working on prompts and different improving prompts from that side. It's almost like that, where you can do some prompting and then you can copy the curl, the code, or the Python code, and then there's some tools there, like let's say if you're migrating from OpenAI to Llama, I think they're making it easier to be able to do that, or vice versa, to be friendly with OpenAI. I wish they gave me full access to it, but for now it's very impressive of how fast this is. Like, you know, the math answer, I'm sure it's cached already, but played around with it a little bit more and other images. I'll share some snippets on it on my socials. Definitely the synthetic data kit is the game changer here. During the developer session, of course, they kind of showed off how Llama can do some vibe coding. That was pretty impressive because everything was local, right? Or that you can do it through the Llama API. Of course, it doesn't match to if you're using Cursor, Windsurf, those kind of things already. Definitely, you're probably way beyond what the scope of what this is. For me, I credit the people who inspired me to do these kind of things. Riley Brown, you know, Levels, those kind of people kind of are pioneering the vibe engineering space right now. Having Llama, it kind of shows you where things are heading, of where they're encouraging people or where they're teaching people on how to go about to build your own app with the help of AI. And of course, like, you know, having to go through this during the break, I got excited to test these things out. I have my laptop there and I went at it right away. Biggest takeaway here is the challenge of open source versus closed models that are out there, right? From where we stand with open source models, we've been able to innovate with the open source models, and not to say that we didn't do with the closed models, but I think the biggest thing here is like the barrier for entry, right? Anyone with a MacBook Pro, a laptop, can go to Hugging Face or to Llama and download a local model and start working on it and developing something with it, right? With OpenAI, Claude, of course, there's a fee that you have to do per call. It's not expensive nowadays, and with the open source community getting bigger, with a lot of sample code out there on GitHub, on Hugging Face, I think there's a real opportunity here with the open source community. But I believe the gap between the closed models and the open source models is still big. It's basically the whole Apple versus Android. No matter what your opinion is, Apple is just far more superior in terms of what their infrastructure is. Whereas to Android, in this case, Llama, the open source piece of it, there's a lot of things you can do to innovate, but there's a lot of things that you got to put things together to be able to achieve something that the closed model is doing right now, but at a cost, right? We're still in the early phase of things. So AGI, those kind of things, I'm sure it's happening in some way, shape, or form already, but it still needs a lot of work. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you haven't done so yet, please check out 5 steps in 5 minutes with AI, a series I'm doing to make sure that everyone's empowered with AI, no matter what your job is. People who has the advantage are mostly the ones working in tech, and I want to make sure that everyone, even if you're not working in tech, you have access to these tools, these free things that are out there that could apply to your use case. So please follow, like, subscribe, and comment, and please share this video. Thank you.